Welcome to Leadership from the Cross with Pastor Scott Thom. This broadcast is devoted to taking your ministry and life to the next level. No matter what the level you are at, let us help advance your leadership skills. Leadership from the Cross is a ministry of Cross Christian Fellowship in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And now, Pastor Scott Thom.
I love training up people for ministry. I've done this for nearly 30 years, and it's just exciting to share the things that I've learned, and I'm still learning. I want to bring you things that are going to be exceptional and really help you grow in ministry and grow your ministry. What we want to talk about today is being a follower. You really can't be a great leader unless you've learned to follow. Some people say, well, that doesn't follow. Some people are born to be great leaders, and we all know that's not true. Leaders grow. Maybe they have a extra leg up on some others because they have parents that were leaders, or situations in their life cause them to push themselves into a place where they've had to lead, had to learn leadership strategies and how to be a good leader. Maybe it's because of workplace environment or a home environment, or they got involved in some type of sport and it's caused them to grow. But it's usually because they've served under someone else's authority. They were a follower. They were a second. In the Bible, you see great leaders time and time again, but if you really look into their history, you can see where they've been pushed by circumstances or by a leader, where they've grown into great leaders themselves. Elijah was a tremendous leader, but so was Elisha, and Elisha did so much more in scope. David became a tremendous leader. He learned under Saul, and you go, wait, Saul's not a good leader. Hey, sometimes the best trainer is a negative example. And you can see something, you be under a person, you go, you've been embarrassed by them or something happened, and you go, when I get my company, when I get my ministry, when I get into this place, I am never going to do that. I'm never going to do that to someone. Or they have frustrating leadership capabilities, and you're like, I've learned from that. I'm going to move on. And David did. He learned a lot. Moses had Joshua. Joshua had Moses. Joshua became a tremendous leader. And it's just a process. You can learn this on your own, and you can learn it without following someone, but there's such a benefit and blessing to learn it while you are following another person, while you are serving them. You get it by experience. Experience, really, you can have all kinds of theories. You can say, this is something that I believe in. You can read a book or listen to an audio file and buy into a concept of leadership. But unless you get to see it and experience it in a process, in an ability to watch it over and over enacted by a leader, and by you having to take that leader's vision and enact it, you don't get the full concept. There's something about the process and the experience where it becomes inside of you. It becomes not just theory, but this is the way I'm going to do business. This is the way I'm going to process things. This is the way that I'm going to do leadership, because I found it to be extremely effective as I saw it practiced or not practiced, right? It was very ineffective. So there's three things. There's many things. I want to cover three things because that's about what we'll have time for today. Three things that will allow you to begin to implement, to understand this and implement it in your ministry. Number one, learn to take risks. Don't be a static leader. You have a static leader and a dynamic leader. Now, a static leader isn't evil. They're not wrong people. But static means you're basically going to get stuck somewhere. You're going to be slow moving in your process. This is the way we've always done it. And there's no room for improvement. There's no room for taking risks. There's no room for learning new things. There's no room for failure. Let me tell you, as a leader, you have to get used to some failure. If you want people to always think that you're smart and that you never mess up or you never fail, you'll never be a great leader. This is one of the key areas. There are many areas that will cause somebody to be static, but it's one of the key areas. either someone will think that they're not smart. I'm not a born leader and I'm not like that person and I could never do that and we can never get to that level. We're just not smart enough, or I'm just not smart enough and we're not capable. You'll be static. You'll rise to the level of what you're capable of and the people around you. And let me tell you, if you would number leaders 1 to 10 and that person's a 5, the leaders that are going to be around you are going to be 3s, 4s, and 2s. They're not going to be 7, 8s, and 9s. Those people will be there only for a while until they get frustrated and go, we're not going anywhere. And my suggestions are getting kicked to the floor because we're afraid to take risks. So these leaders will move on. And the leaders you will have will be either equal to you or less than you. This is a view of static leadership that if you understand it and begin to look at it, you go, man, I get this and I can move out. So if you're saying, God, I have a fear of failure and I'm not that smart and we're not going to get there. Look, you can train yourself. If you listen to the first podcast, I give a secret away that most people don't think it's a secret. What? You listen to one thing a day, you read one page a day, or one chapter or whatever. And doesn't add up to much. Let me tell you, if you do something for 2 years and you concentrate in an area for 2 years, you will become an expert in that area. If you read blog posts on it, you listen to a podcast on it, you watch a video on it, you read a book about it, and you're doing that daily, just incrementally building up, you will become an expert and you will be able to conquer these areas. And the people who you think are really smart, this is how they did it. Nobody's an overnight success. It's because they put in the work to get there. So if you say, well, I'm just not talented enough, I can't speak well enough, I don't think well, just chuck that stuff. Those attitudes won't get you anywhere. You're a static follower or a static leader. You'll never rise to the level of your potential. Your potential is always bigger and greater than you think. Now, there are people who can be a static leader and they're very smart and they rise to a certain level too. They rise to a great level and they get to that level and they stagnate. They become static because they are very smart, but they have to do everything. Because they're smart, they don't trust other people to do stuff. They don't delegate as much. Just a little bit here and there, but non-essentials, non-important things. They don't raise up leaders. They don't duplicate themselves. And so you're only able to do as much as you can do within the framework of that day, the time, the hours that you have. So you can only get so much done in a day. And no matter how smart you are, one person can only get X amount of jobs done. So even smart people will limit themselves because they think they know it all. Moses limited himself at the beginning. I'm the deliverer. And so he comes along the fight here and he kills an Egyptian. I'm going to do it. I'm going to deliver. Instead of waiting on God, instead of getting a plan, he was trained. If you read in the text, he's trained militarily. He's trained in everything a pharaoh should be trained in. So in languages, in military strategy, in the arts and different things, fighting. So he could take out quite a few people, but you can't take out the whole Egyptian army. Only God can do that. And he didn't really have a plan. He was just relying on his own strength and people will recognize me. If I knock this guy out or if I kill him, right? People are going to say, you're the deliverer. And then a whole nation rises up and I'm the superstar with the cape flapping in the back behind me, with my hands on my hips and the big red S on my chest. I'm the superstar leader and and I'm the deliverer and I'm here. And God's like, nope, no. Not going to happen. Not going to do it. He got stuck in this still, right? Even after delivering everybody, what was he doing? He was answering all the questions that everybody had. And Jethro, his father-in-law, comes along and goes, what are you doing? Well, I've got to answer the question for the people. Yeah, but you're frustrating the people. You're not being a good leader, Moses. I mean, his father-in-law was very diplomatic about it, right? See if this is from the Lord. Let me give you some advice. See if you weigh it out, you pray on it, but look, son, you're going to kill yourself and frustrate the people. So what you've got to do is delegate. You're smart. You know God's law. You've seen God face to face, incarnation, right? He gets to see Jesus early, not God the Father. No one's seen him, but he gets to see it. You are a privileged individual. You are a great leader. 1 million+ people are following you. But you, Moses, cannot do it all. You cannot do it all. No matter how smart you are, eventually you're going to have to train other people. Eventually you're going to have to delegate. Eventually you're going to have seconds and assistants. Those people who are going to come alongside of you that you pour yourself into, you raise up leaders, and then shazam, the thing takes off. So he says, you raise up the top quality people, put them over the thousands or the tens of thousands, right? And then over the hundreds, over the 50s, over the tens. And if anything really, really tough comes up the ladder and nobody can answer it, then you take it. Otherwise, you just continue to train these leaders. And then you do what God's called you to do and speak to the people when you need to speak to them. But don't get bogged down in these other things, because the ministry, the movement is just stagnant here. You've become a static leader, even though you're a great individual. So there's a number of areas where we limit ourselves. Now think about this. Joshua got to see all this happen. He got to see the transition. He got to see the failure of Moses. And Moses went in, right? Even after he came back, and he came back with the power of God, carrying the shepherd's staff in his hand. Thus saith the Lord, let my people go, right? And then Pharaoh goes, well, who are you? Get out of here. Matter of fact, I'm not going to let your people go. I'm going to make them work 3 times as hard. And the people groaned, right, at Moses. And they're like, well, who are you? And they're saying the same thing as Pharaoh. And why should we trust you? And you're not a good leader. You've made us work 3 times as hard. You're not solving problems. And Moses had to go back to the Lord. What am I doing? What's going on? And God's like, I got this. You need to lead. You need to trust me. You need to lead. And then you had to have guys like Joshua who are still standing alongside of him, Aaron, that are talking to the people, backing up Moses. So Joshua became a great leader watching Moses become a great leader. You got to see the failures of Moses. You also got to see the success of Moses. You got to see that Moses wasn't afraid to risk things, but it was calculated risk as the Lord led him. He wasn't afraid to step out by faith, even though sometimes it looked like he had egg on his face. He became very strategic and very much of a planner, but he didn't limit his growth by coming stagnant by just trusting in his own resources. He allowed the resources of everybody around him to be pulled together as a team, and the whole process moved forward, and you're moving 1 million plus people through the desert. So the first idea of being a follower and learning this and learning the process is learn to take the risk so you don't become a stagnant leader. You want to become this leader that has the qualities to go beyond that, right? You're a dynamic leader. Dynamic doesn't mean that you have this great personality that you can speak and people swoon. That's not a true dynamic leader. False teachers are those types of teachers. They are dynamic and they're mesmerizing, all this. A dynamic leader is a person that other people will run through a wall for. A dynamic leader is a person that you just begin to trust because you're like, they've paid the price. They understand what's going on. They sympathize with us. They pour into my life. They're not just asking stuff for me. And these dynamic leaders are people that do a tremendous work in the kingdom of God, but they've paid the price and they understand, and they've been a second. They've been a follower. And you say, well, where was Moses a second? Look, he was out serving sheep for 40 years in the backside of the desert under his father-in-law and just learning to serve, learning different things. And just over the time, just realizing I can't do it all myself. I'm such an idiot. Look what I did. And God allows you time to look over all your mistakes and learn. So if you've stepped out in ministry, maybe you've been a church planter and you've stepped out in ministry and you failed. If your calling is true, don't get down. You've learned a tremendous amount. I've trained up church leaders that are out there now, and they have successful churches who've done 2-3 church plants and failed. And they came to our shepherd school and they're like, well, this is what I was missing. And all it took was a little bit of an encouragement and saying, look, don't get down on yourself. Look, you've got to fail sometimes to learn to succeed. And God takes people who have failed and turn them into tremendous success stories if they just learn the process. If they learn to trust God, if they learn not to become static, become dynamic by always learning, always open, always allowing God to work. The second secret here is alignment versus agreement. You're going to be a follower of someone sometime or another, either at a job or, in anywhere you're under somebody in authority. And let me tell you, you know this, you will not always agree with them. But there are certain people that think if they're in ministry, everything's got to be copacetic, everything's got to be perfect, teamwork's perfect, and everybody's always in agreement. It doesn't work that way. And so people get frustrated and they start talking bad about the leader. Doesn't know what he's doing. He's doing this. Moses got that all the time, right? Got it from his own family. Who are you to be the leader? Who are you to be the prophet? Who are you to be the only one that God speaks through? Same thing with Korah, right? And all the people who came along and grumbled. There are always going to be people who grumble. Do not be one of those. Just button your lip. The person that you want to be in ministry or even at your job is the person who knows how to shut that kind of talk down and thinks positive. Because thinking negative and complaining doesn't really get us anywhere anyway. So let's move to the positive. Let's make the best out of the situation. Sure, our leader may have made a bad decision, or it may seem like he's made a bad decision. And we got 3 times the work. You're not a good leader. But ultimately, what did God do? They had 3 times the work, but what did that prepare him for? A journey in the desert. They were complaining, and God was saying, I'm just prepping you, man. I'm just having you do your laps. You're going to learn these things. You're going to get stronger. We don't always see what God's doing. And so sometimes things are there just to teach us a lesson or to prepare us for the next step, which could blow our minds. So you got to hang in there and don't complain. Just try to say, God, what are you doing in this situation? I don't like it. I don't like working 3 times as hard. I don't like doing these things and not getting paid for it. And I'm doing everything in ministry and putting in mega hours. And I don't like all this stuff. But then you've got to sit back and go, is there a solution to this? Or is this something I have to do? If it's something I just have to do for now and make ministry go, make this job go, make this family go, then let's do it. Make it fun by saying, what can I learn out of this? In anything God gives you, learn. Here's the key. You can agree with people only some of the time. You're never going to agree 100% with anybody, not even your spouse. So we have to create an alignment. If your boss, if your ministry leader, if your pastor, your coach comes in and says, look, this is the way we're going to do it. And you're like, man, I don't agree with that. I don't like that. I don't understand that. Why aren't we doing this? Now, I think it's okay to make suggestions, not raise objections, and say, have we thought of this? You probably have thought of this, but I want to raise this as a alternative or as a help or another source or another direction that we can go. But if they say, nope, thought of that, don't want to do that, then here's what we got to do. In our heart, we don't agree with everything. So what happens is we don't follow. Sometimes we grumble, we do other things. We don't get on board. We don't become a team player, and we hinder what God's doing. The Jews hindered what God's doing. They complained. They came against Moses. They turned people against Moses. They stopped him from going into the promised land because 10 out of the 12 said, no, we can't do it. Moses is crazy. And the other 2 guys are going, no, Moses is not crazy. Look, God can work this out. He's already shown us he's not crazy. We've already had tremendous victories already. Geez, we beat the Egyptians, the world power at the time. These are 7 smaller nations. They're big to us, but they're smaller nations than Egypt. So we have to have alignment with the goal at the end. Okay, what's our goal? In ministry, our goal is we're going to minister to these people. We're going to get the gospel out. We're going to, whether it's training them or getting them in a recovery program. And we don't agree exactly how we're all going to do this. Okay, we're going to meet on this night instead of this night. We're not going to use that curriculum rather this curriculum. And you're like, I really like that other curriculum. And so I'm not going to participate. No, what's the common goal? Common goal is to get that person recovered. Get that person where they can participate and walk a godly walk. That's the goal. Can we align ourselves with the goal even though we don't agree on exactly how we're going to get there? Yeah, and we need to. Now, I'm not saying that we go along with something that is sinful, unbiblical, immoral, or illegal. We're not doing that. But everything else, yeah, we need to kind of get on board in a big way and say, okay, I'm going to buy in. I'm going to be a team player. I don't agree 100%, but I'm aligning myself with you and with the end game, with the goal, and that is to get people saved. Do we do it by crusades? Do we do it online? Well, we can do both, but neither is wrong. Well, that's not as effective. We did crusades in California, and people said, per dollar, we're not reaching as many people. We're spending 70,000, 100,000 on renting a stadium and doing this. 300 and 400 people are saved. We can do it for pennies on the dollar on the internet. Well, great. But we might not reach some of these people. They don't have internet connection. There's a lot of people who still don't have email addresses. We want to reach all people. And since when do we put a price on souls? Yes, we need to be good stewards. But there was this big debate going on with our team. We can do it so much more cost effective. Yeah, but this is pretty effective. We're seeing thousands come to the Lord and really stay and walk with them because we have a very good follow-up program. Online is not so easy. Face-to-face is pretty easy. And getting them plugged into a church. We had to get agreement. Look, are you in or are you not in? Can you put 100% behind this? And here's how you get agreement and you learn from good teachers is they'll say, anybody got objections? And then they let them really air their objections. And then if those objections are good, you adopt them. But if they're not, or if they're not the vision or calling or direction that the ministry is going in or the business is going in, then you say, this is where we're going. Can you get on board? We're going to give you this assignment. You're going to do product placement. You're going to do advertising. You're going to get the word out so that we can get the maximum number of people at the stadium. Are you in? If they're not in, you got to replace them with someone who is. If they're in, then you say, okay, I want your best effort in this. And you as a follower have to put your best effort in it. Look, Nehemiah served a heathen king. How do you put your best effort into someone who is occupying your home country and has killed many of your countrymen? Same thing with Daniel. You don't have to agree with everything. As a matter of fact, they agreed with probably not very much, except they served with vigor, Daniel and Nehemiah, and God blessed them because they aligned themselves with the end game. They were called servants of God. They weren't going to compromise in areas, but they were going to serve whoever God put them under. How much more should we serve those who are godly? So align yourself. Go, I can't agree with everything, but I'm align myself. This is the same thing for a family. And a wife says, I don't agree with everything my husband's made a decision on. She should have her input. You should pray together. But eventually, once we have to make this decision, then we align ourselves together and go, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to discipline the kids. I don't agree with everything, but we're going to be aligned. Otherwise, if you don't have a alignment, you don't have a team, you create a crack, a crevice that the enemy can get in, or that people use and manipulate even kids and they go to mom rather than dad, or go to dad rather than mom, so that they can split the two and get their way, and then the whole thing crumbles. So you need to have alignment. Sometimes it takes some discipline to get people there. Remember, Moses' own family came against him. Miriam said, who are you? I'm a prophetess. God's speaking through me. Why should you be up in the front? And God struck her with leprosy, right? And Moses pleaded for her. And God says, well, she should spend a week this way at least, because she needs to learn her lesson. Not because God's manipulative or his feelings are hurt if somebody doesn't agree with them. This is because you need alignment or the whole thing crumbles. God hates anarchy. So what was the ultimate goal? Get the people to the promised land. That's the ultimate goal. Everybody who aligned their hearts with that, even though they didn't agree on everything, whether they sometimes had water or not had water, or had meat or didn't have meat, who aligned their hearts with this, they got into the promised land because they aligned their hearts. And then everybody else who bought into the program and said, we need to go in. We're tired of living in the desert. We're tired of roaming around and going in circles. Let's get in there. Let's take the fight to the enemy. And they align their heart that way. This is something just as important as the other two, and is to lift their hands. And I'm using Moses kind of as a allegory for this whole thing on learning leadership. The servants under Moses, when they go to battle, in one particular place in the Old Testament, they're lifting his hands. The hands go down, the battle goes the wrong way for the Israelites. When the hands go up, the battle goes the right way. It wasn't magical. I mean, God was teaching us an illustration. When you support the leader and get in line with the leader, you are going to have victories. And this isn't just alignment. This is a special area of alignment. So this is the third point, though. This is lifting the hands. Think of this as, this isn't being a good worker. I'm just going to be a good worker. That's not lifting someone's hands. A good worker is the problem solver. A good worker is the person who doesn't just dump on the leader. I absolutely hate that because I've been a leader in so many different ministries and a business owner and other places where I hate it where somebody just calls me and says, here's the problem. You're the leader, fix it. It's like, well, I'm also paying you as part of this solution. You're part of the ministry. You're part of this. And so the idea is that you're supposed to lift my hands. I'll make decisions, but if I have to learn everything and figure out every problem, then I don't need you. Then I'm back to being that static leader that I can't take this ministry or this business to the next level because I'm having to do everything. And it only goes so far as how smart I am and the hours I have in the day. But we want a mastermind. We want a group of people that come along and say, we've come up with solutions. So it's not just identifying the problem and then dumping it on the leader. You go along and you lift the leader's hand. You bear the weight of the solution yourself as well. Your hands and arms are going to get tired, right? So it's the whole idea of you're coming in and you're there not just as a worker and not just as an encourager. Go team, go leader. You can solve this. You can figure it out. We'll all sit back here and, drink our coffee till you figure it out. And then tell us everything that we need to do and we'll go do it. You're a bad follower if you're doing that. It's like and I hate to use those terms, bad follower, but it's like the servant. Jesus says that, what good have you done? You come out of the field and you expect the owner to sit you down and feed you? No. You're working in the field, come back, you're supposed to make the meal and then you eat later. Otherwise, you've only done what you're basically called to do. You've not gone above and beyond. You're not a then some type of person. I'm going to do this and then some, the second mile type of thing. Because if you're only saying, well, I'm going to come in and you basically serve me. I'm going to give you the problem. You're going to solve the problem. Then my problem's solved and I'll go back work. You're not really serving. You're not really lifting their hands. So you identify problems and then you should come with at least 2 solutions. Okay. 2 solutions at least, not 1, because you haven't really done your research unless you've come up with 2 solutions. One may be far better than the other, but you need to have a secondary solution and even a third if you can. You don't just show up and go, Houston, we've got a problem. Okay, well, lives depend on this. Let's solve it. What's some of the solutions? Who can we get together? How can we get to a solution? If you say, I just don't know at all, but I do have a number of someone we can consult with, or let me call a couple of the other churches that may have gone through this before, or let me find a friend or an expert in the area, or a book or a podcast or something where I can come up with a solution. Let me pray on it, right? Obviously, ask God, and we need wisdom. Father, I need wisdom. I need solution for this. In all 3 of these areas, you're obviously asking God, right? So if you're a static leader and you're going, I need to grow in areas, I need to grow mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Lord, show me, direct me. That's what David did. Search me and find these ways in me. And it's going to be hard, but it'll be gratifying. And aligning yourself. You got, Lord, my heart is so corrupt. I'm complaining inside about my leader. Ask God to change your heart and to button your lip. And so that you begin to think of positive things about this leader. I'm blessed to be in this situation to learn from this leader. Even if he's not a great leader, there's opportunities to learn on a positive side and a negative side. You have a problem, you come across a problem and you go, Houston, we have a problem. Then give at least 2 solutions. Pray on it, ask people on it, search the internet, find other people who've been through the same circumstances. If it's something like in the children's ministry. One time we had a difficult time and it was a mega church that I was working at the time as assistant pastor, and we got thousands and thousands and thousands of people coming to each service. So we're not getting enough workers in the children's ministry. What do? And we have a pretty good children's minister, really good, matter of fact. But he's kind of bogged down. He's like, I need new eyes on this. And so I was asked, go figure this out. There's a problem here. And so what we did was we got some of the main teachers and coordinators together and go, here's the problem. What should we do? And some of them had nothing to say and some were just complaining, but others stepped up and they go, you know what? I think it's time we ask some of the parents to step in here and help. If they would do it once a month, our problem would be solved. If only 1% of them did that, our problem would be solved. So I think we need to do that. Others had come by and said, if we do that, now some parents are going to be mad. Some parents are going to go, I'm not going to do that. And they're not going to serve and they'll leave the church. Well, that's true. So there are consequences to that. But the blessing is if you get that many people to help, other people, new people coming to the church go, man, their children's ministry is rocking. I really feel comfortable leaving my kids there. You're going to gain people that you're losing now because they're feeling like, wow, it's really inadequate number of people in there to watch these 20 or 30 kids. You've only got like 2 people in there and one's a teenager. So there's both sides of that. And then there was another suggestion of, look, we've got this massive overflow room and we have these other kind of rooms that could be opened up and we put glass windows in there and people who are like, okay, they won't let my kid in the service and I really don't want them in there, then let them go into that room and they can watch their own kid and still get the service. There is a glass partition there. It's going to be some soundproofing, so it's going to keep some of the crying or other things away from the service, but they want to sit in there with their kid, or if their kid's sick, or if the kid's, just crying too much because they can't leave them in the room till they get used to leaving in one of the rooms, we can do that. So we had a number of solutions go back to the pastor, the children's pastor, and then ultimately to the senior pastor, because he just wants people happy and problem solved. I want them to be able to hear the word of God, right? And we say, here's the solutions. We implemented 2 out of the 3 and it solved the problem. So you want to go and you want to get the manpower, the time necessary, the dollars necessary, and say, here's the solutions. This one will cost this much, but here's the benefit. It'll either be in money or manpower or time or all 3. Maybe we need to hire a new staff member. Maybe we need to let that staff member go. They're not buying in at all. They're not in agreement. They're not in alignment. They're causing an issue. That may be the solution. So to lift their arms means that you have to be a problem solver. Don't just identify problems and be a critic and say, we need this fixed. Matter of fact, the people who rise up in ministry and in business are the people who begin to solve problems. And the employer goes, man, that person just solves problems. They just are helpful. They care about the company. And you may not be all that thrilled about the company, but you just solve the company's problems. You solve that leader's problems. And they're like, this person is invaluable. We've got to promote them. We've got to keep them. We've got to give them a raise. We got to do this. And that's the way that you get used in ministry, but it's also the way you become a great leader. If you're not a great follower, you will not be a great leader. If you are a follower that only takes instruction and you step out and go, I'm going to be the leader now, whether it's this ministry or planting a church, you are going to be a static leader. It doesn't mean you can't succeed, but you will limit your success. You will limit it to the amount of fear you have. I fear to take risks. I fear to step out. I fear that I will be thought not very smart, or I fear that I'm not smart enough to do this. Some type of fear will limit your going forward. Or you're pretty smart. You're pretty capable. You're going to limit yourself. You could have a good, thriving church. And I've done that. Good, thriving church, good income, things like that. But I want to take this to the next level. I want to take the training to the next level. I'm always wanting to do that. What can we do differently? How can we improve? How can I train or hire people or give away ministry? And I've got to teach them to be problem solvers and give them the authority and the time and the resources to go solve it. That's a whole nother episode that we want to do. But these are 3 things, not by any means exhaustive list of being a good leader, but one of the key examples of being a good leader is that you are a good follower. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Hey, I would really like to hear from you. You can connect with us at crossfellowship.org, crossfellowship.org. You can email us from the contact page there. And I want to hear from you. I want to know what's going on. You can also rate our podcast, but I'd really love to have you invite friends to subscribe to this, either in the Google platform, Android platform, on any of the podcast applications, or especially in iTunes. If you do that, then I know that we've got extra listeners, but I'd like to hear from you. I'd also like to hear from you when you connect with me and say, hey, Pastor Scott, teach us this. Teach me this. I've got a specific question about leadership. Go with that. Run with that. And I love doing that. And that's what our Shepherd School is all about. So anyways, may God totally bless you. Blessed wishes. See you next week. This is Pastor Scott Thom, host of the podcast Leadership from the Cross and the Bible Answer radio show, No Other Doctrine. Over 8 years of doing our show, I have been asked several key questions over and over. Most Christians don't know how to answer them. Could you answer these questions? Is there a God? Is the Bible true? Why is there evil if God is good? Is Jesus the only way? Is there life after death? Does God allow failure? How do I overcome a sinful habit? We want to teach you how to answer these questions in 7 free emails. Each has an audio file and study notes to follow along. Here's how you get them. Text the word question to 33444. Here's how you do it. Simply open a new text in your phone. In the recipients area, type 33444. In the text area, enter the word question and click send. Or go to crossfellowship.org and click on the guy scratching his head.
You have been listening to Leadership from the Cross with Pastor Scott Thom of Cross Christian Fellowship in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Check out Pastor Scott's ministry training school and his other radio show, No Other Doctrine, by visiting our website at crossfellowship.org. That's crossfellowship.org. Also, you can visit our Facebook page at Facebook.com/Leadership from the Cross.